It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out, and I am so excited with the timing of today's guest. Her name is Jenny Hornby. She is a licensed professional counselor. She's a play therapist. She knows EMDR. And we had planned, here she is, we had planned to talk about emotional regulation and helping your child build. In our initial call, we realized that there's some other topics that I think are also urgent.
Mm.
Hi, Jenny.
We did it.
Yes, we did it. Yeah. So I was just saying, as we just had our call, we were talking about some other issues that are really big for our clients, which
Yeah.
I'll get into in a minute. But it generally involves when your ex is treating your child like a lover. And thankfully, Jenny can talk about this because I was just saying that in the past, since Sunday and today's Thursday, we've had 3 different clients talk about something we call emotional incest, and I'm so glad that you're able to comment on that. But first, before we even get into it, what is emotional regulation? We often talk about like self-regulation, co-regulation.
Right.
What's emotional regulation?
I'm so glad you asked. So emotional regulation is, first of all, just noticing how you're feeling. So as you notice it and start paying attention, you're already creating a shift inside. So rather than I'm mad and this anger is just everywhere inside of me, I'm noticing I'm mad. So now I'm more in a state where I'm in myself kind of energy and I'm observing an emotion. So I'm myself and I'm observing a feeling. I am not that feeling. So it creates a
You're
little
not
bit of
consumed by
distance.
it. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So it's just that process of noticing how you're feeling and that feeling is not taking over. So it isn't necessarily that you're calm and tranquil and everything's fine. You can be upset and sad and still be regulated. I
Mm-hmm.
like thinking of it as what Dan Siegel calls the window of tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
You're in your window. You might be distressed a little bit, but it's not too much or too little that you're experiencing. You're able to stay present and engaged in what you're feeling
Yeah.
and noticing it, paying attention to it and things like that. Yeah.
It makes me think of the line, you got to name it to tame
Yes,
it.
I love that line. Yes, absolutely. And it's just the idea, and I think as parents, I'm a mom as well. And so it's easy for me to kind of put my feelings on my child, rather than own it for myself. You made me mad or you're
Mm.
stressing me out. And so regulating is owning what you're feeling for yourself. This is my stress. This is my anger. This is my fear, not yours,
Yeah.
and helping work with your own emotion as a separate person. So it's really, really huge for helping with parenting and life and all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard the term individuate, where
Right.
it's like you have to realize your child is separate from you.
Right. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we even go on, Jenny, can you formally introduce yourself and say
Sure.
what you do?
Yeah. So I'm in Virginia. I'm a licensed counselor and I'm trained in play therapy. I'm trained in EMDR, which is a trauma therapy. I do a lot with art and music. I really try to meet families and wherever they're at and work with them. And I just wrote a children's book called Made for This, which is working with the child who's very scared and fearful and how do you help him overcome his fears. And so I just love helping families, really.
Great. Well, I'm glad that you're here because we have lots of families that need help, especially with kids that are scared.
Yeah,
And so I was telling you earlier, and I'll say it again here, that ours is a community of people dealing with a very difficult ex. And
right,
many of our clients have, most of our clients have gotten out of the relationship, and now they're dealing with having a child who has to still go back and forth. And
right,
they're terrified that the abuse is now being inflicted on the child and they're not there as a buffer.
right.
So their instinct is to shield a child as much
Mhm,
as possible from
mhm.
any kind of conflict, not even just with the other parent, but overall, they tend to be
Right.
so frightened. What do you think about a parent who's just like, can I just remove all of the difficulty from my
Yeah.
child's life because I
Yeah.
don't want them to
Right.
experience what I did.
Yeah. I totally get it. You know, I think it's very understandable. Um, and it's, if you're coming out of that kind of painful marriage or relationship, I'm sure that there's trauma that is being triggered inside of that parent, which is going to dysregulate you. So I get where they're coming from. I, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt that most of us are trying to do the best we can with what we have at the moment.
Mhm.
So I get where they're coming from. The thing that was going through my head as you were talking is, what is the child learning and believing about themselves? So if the parent is responding in this, helicopter bulldoze kind of way, like, I got to get all these challenges out of their way, I got to protect them from everything. What is the child coming to believe about themselves?
Mhm.
And what we've learned is the child believes they're fragile.
Mhm.
They believe they can't handle it. And so that's not what we want. I think when you are working with these parents, I'm sure, they want their child to be resilient and be able to handle these challenges. And they're in the challenge regardless if they want to be or not, in these situations. So I think we have to really be careful the belief that we're passing down to our child.
Mhm.
So there's a big difference between validating that this is hard and kind of trying to remove them from the hard.
Yeah.
This can't be allowed or tolerated or anything like that. And of course there's limits. Children are still developing and growing, and so we want to give them environments that are safe, that are you know, loving and secure, but that's just not reality, especially for these families and what they're going through. I use a phrase, and I wish I knew where I got it from, but I call it the future forecast, where how are we projecting the future situation? So, like if my child is going to have a visit with their parent, how am I projecting that that's going to go in my mind? Am I creating this story and this narrative that it's going to be so terrible? Because if I'm doing that, I'm reacting to that story in my body. I'm sending that kind of message to my child. Um, and that isn't helpful for them. It's better to try to think about, okay, if my child has a good visit, or my child can handle it, or my child knows, what would that look like? If my child has the best visit they could have, what would that look like?
Mhm.
Asking yourself that question. And that helps a lot of times, because parents can think, well, okay, I picture them speaking up for themselves. I picture them being able to call. I picture them being able to, understand for themselves who their parent is, and
Mhm.
come to these realizations on their own. Um, and maybe they identify some positive traits in their parent. A lot of times kids have a lot of grace
Yeah.
and they see things pretty clearly. When I sit down with kids when their parents aren't in the session, I'm really amazed at their wisdom and their understanding. Um, and so I think we can give them um, just kind of the belief in them in a lot of ways, that they have I equipped them to know what to do and how to speak up, or when they come home, how can I help them kind of de-stress from the visit,
Mhm.
and things like that. So
Yeah.
I,
It makes me think about how teaching your child critical thinking skills,
yes,
showing them that you have faith that they can draw their own conclusions is going
right,
to make them feel more powerful
yes.
and have more agency as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. I'll give you just a personal example. So I have one of my kids really hates speaking in front of people. And so anytime there's a school event where he's got to get up in front of the stage, I think I get as nervous as he
Mhm.
gets.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I had a friend say to me, she said, Jenny, he always steps up. And when she said that, it's like something in me lit up. Like, you're right. He always does. He's nervous, but he does it. He rises to the occasion. And And that shifted the way I interacted with my son before he had to go get on stage. You always rise up to this. It's scary, but you always find a way and you always figure it out. Um, and so that's kind of what I'm talking about, just paying attention to your own narrative and challenging it a little bit where you're giving the kid the credit that they deserve for being able to
Yeah.
handle it.
You're reminding me of my kids too, and resilience in general, I think involves pointing out to other people, especially our children, you've already gotten through something like
Yes,
this. I know you can do it.
yes.
Like my daughter, I mean, she's almost 22 now, but in times during her life, she went overseas by herself, or she went away to sleepaway camp and she didn't know anybody. And she's like, what if I don't make any friends? And I'm like, you always do.
Right.
Every single time.
Yes.
Think about it. How many times have you come to me with the same,
Right.
like, what if
Yeah.
awfulizing, which of course I do myself.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then, and then, and then you always have an amazing time.
Right.
Like, just trust that this is going to be like every other thing
Mm-hmm.
that you've done. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to be fine. You're going to make friends. You're going to love
Right.
it. And then
Yeah.
it just keeps building on
Right.
itself.
Yeah. Like we call them success stories,
Mhm.
just kind of replaying the success stories for them. And we just watched as a family, we went and saw Mission Impossible.
Mhm.
And honestly, I got so much out of it because I was like, this feels like life,
Really?
these crazy situations that you're being handed that you have to deal with, and the
Mhm.
thing they said in it all the time was, we'll figure it out.
Oh, I
You
love
know,
that.
we, and I love that as just a mantra for us as we're caring for our families and our kids is like, I'm not sure how this is all going to come together, but I know we're going to figure it out together.
Yeah.
Isn't that so
I
good? Because, and they
you I'm
do,
like, you know what? That's going to be the title of this conversation.
right? We'll figure it out.
Yes.
We will
Love it.
figure it out. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes, but of course, now here's something that, like I mentioned earlier, has come up multiple times
Yes.
just in the past few days and is a constant theme for our clients. And that's something I think that's called emotional incest
Right.
or enmeshment, where we've got a child going to our ex's house and our ex is
Hmm.
treating that child as a lover or as a spouse.
Right.
And our clients, everyone's kind of creeped out and
Yeah.
disgusted and thinking, I need to do something. I don't know
Right.
what to do. If I
Right.
call CPS, it's going to look really bad, especially because we're in the midst of this
Right.
litigation and we already
Right.
know that when things come up like this, nobody pays as much attention.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about what emotional incest
Yeah.
is and hopefully give us some guidance on how to navigate
Sure.
it because it's
I
very
know you
uncomfortable.
feel icky,
Mhm.
right? It does. Um, you know, I'm going to be honest. I have a lot of compassion for people who struggle to have boundaries like that. I think that sometimes parents, when they're lonely and strained in their marriages, I don't know that they necessarily go into their parenting role thinking, I'm going to take this from my kid in some kind of evil way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I don't want to make anybody into a monster. I think that a lot of times parents are trying to get their needs met from their children,
Mhm.
really, and they don't realize it. And it really invades the child's kind of sense of self and
Mhm.
space. And the child maybe doesn't even realize it,
Mhm.
because this is just what I do to help my parent feel better.
Mhm.
Um, and so I guess I have a lot of compassion for both parents in that situation. Because the
Mhm.
parents that I've seen do that, if you were to say to them, you have made your child like a spouse, and that feels like they're being molested emotionally. Like if I
Mhm.
were to say that to a parent that's doing it, they would just be mortified and horrified. Like, what?
Mhm.
That's not their intention at all.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of times it's just this deep need for like an emotional kind of soothing. And instead of looking for that, you know, with another adult or, professionally, whatever kind of help they need, they're
Mhm.
like sucking it out of their poor child in that situation. And I would say that most times parents or children, excuse me, they don't realize, they know they feel yucky and it feels
Mhm.
strange, but they don't know how to give that a word or what to call that, even for us talking as adults, it's just, what do we call this,
I know. And what do we do? What do we
Right.
do? Like it's just when the child comes back, or I know one of our clients, like if their child showed them some of the texts that their ex was sending the
Mm,
child about like, there's never been a love as amazing like ours. Like, why would you send that to your
right,
daughter?
right, exactly.
And
And
I can't wait until we're together again. You're my world. We see it from
mm,
men and women.
yes,
And
yeah,
it is very like, what does the other parent say? And a
right,
child just says, this makes me uncomfortable.
right,
What do you do?
exactly. Yeah. And I love, first of all, probably the parent who's hearing this is going to need a minute,
Yeah,
to just,
right.
I like to say, just check yourself,
Yeah.
So I would just encourage parents to give yourself permission to pause there for a second. Um,
Because
and
it's terrifying,
it is
especially
terrifying. Yeah,
also when you hear that they're sleeping in the same bed with
right.
them. And it's not a really
No,
little kid.
not appropriate. Not appropriate at all. And folks just don't seem to get it. They see it as, oh, we're so close,
Mhm.
and it's too close,
Mhm.
it's your child. One of the things a child needs is they need to know that they can go to sleep on their own, that they can fall asleep, that they can, um, they need that individuation, right? And so this is not a sign of I'm so close to my child because we sleep together and we share all these things and we share everything, and we're the
Mhm.
same person. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a sign of closeness. That's a sign of dysfunction,
Mhm.
And so I would say when you hear that from your child, they come back from a visit, first, take care of yourself, put your oxygen mask on for yourself, you know, and then thank your child. Thank you for telling me that.
Mhm.
That's got to be hard for you to bring to me, you know.
So
So
validate.
validate. Oh my gosh, validate. Like, if that is the one thing parents can take away before you go into any kind of plan or action, or just meet your kid where they're at. So just saying, like, yeah, that would make you feel really uncomfortable. I get it,
And you're
and
not
just,
even saying anything bad about their other parent.
no, exactly. This is not a judgment. This is not pointing fingers. This is just what you're feeling in this moment is seen and acknowledged, and it matters, and it's valid, and it's an appropriate response to what's happening right now,
So instead of jumping into problem solving mode.
Yes, slow down. Yes. In my office, I wish you could see it. I have this giant snail pillow. Because I just am like, everybody, whew, we do not need to rush. This is not the time to rush. Slow down. Yeah. So validate first, put your oxygen mask on first, then validate how they're feeling, and really just try to let them get out whatever they need to get out about it. This is not the time to ask a bazillion questions. Really just listen,
Mhm.
for sure. Because what I find a lot of times is kids have so much to offer. And
Mhm.
again, talking about building that resiliency in them is letting them come forth with what this is like for them, how this feels for them. What do they feel like they need? What do you
Mm.
feel like you need right now? What do you think would help? Just because we might think we know what they need, but it might not match, you know?
That's such
Um,
an important point.
yeah. And it's so funny. Like, I had to go to school to learn these things. What do we need? So I would ask that. What do you feel like you need that would help you feel more comfortable in this
Right.
situation?
Whether you can do it or not, right?
Right.
You're not saying I can help get you what you need. You're just
Right.
saying, what do you think you need?
Exactly.
And we'll figure it out.
Right. We'll figure it out. Yes, Lisa. Mission impossible. We're dangling from an airplane. Well, we'll figure this out. And I really do believe that, um, that's true, that we will figure it out. And I, I guess that's why I think the validation piece is so important, because if a child doesn't feel that their emotions and their experiences are seen and heard, then how are they supposed to figure anything out? Because they're, if they feel like, oh, now I got to help my parent calm down from being so upset, they're going to put their issues to the side to help you.
Mhm.
And
And
that's,
how is that? How does I was going to say, how do you know how that affects them as they get
yeah,
older in all of their relationships? When they, I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but let's hear it.
yeah, I know. So this is what's interesting to me with kids is kids will put aside their need to help their parent stabilize
Mhm.
because they need their parent to be
Yeah.
okay. Because if mom or dad isn't okay, or whoever the guardian is, if they're not okay, then who's going to take care of me? I'm the vulnerable one who needs them. So I'll stuff my stuff, or be strong for them in order for them to be okay, And so then, yeah, that carries on into, um, you know, I have so many adults that I'm working with now who just trying to help them let that wall down.
Hmm.
It's so hard for them to start to actually help that vulnerable part of them that they felt like was too much, get the support it needed, so it just creates barriers and defenses to actually being able to help that vulnerable child that still lives inside. If they just
Yeah.
take that little hurt that they're feeling as a child and they just kind of wrap it up and they push it down
Hmm.
and they kind of put on a mask of, okay, I got to be strong for my parent right now. And we don't want them to have to do that. We want
Yeah.
them to know that we're there for them. This is not to
Right.
make me feel better. This is for you.
Yeah. I mean, we're the adults. So they're
Exactly.
looking to us to self-regulate.
Exactly. Call a friend and get help. Don't make your child be the one who's helping you
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I know, Jenny, one of the things we talked about too were transition days. We see so much dysregulation. Then what are some ideas that
Yeah.
people can do which might be counterintuitive on those
Yeah.
days?
So, first thing I would say is don't ask a lot of questions. When your child comes back from being with the other parent, just greet them, give them a hug, and I think too, be careful with the I miss you thing,
Mm,
because
yeah,
that puts this weird pressure on them. They need to know that you're okay. I'm,
right, right.
so I know that seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? To
Yeah,
not say like, I
no,
miss
I,
you so
I get
much,
it.
you know?
I think it should
But
be the opposite. Like,
right.
I had a great time without you. Let me show you what I was doing because I can
Yeah.
take care of myself and I have my own life.
Yes. You don't have to worry about me. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm here for you. So I would say don't ask a lot of questions. Don't be like over the top with all the missing. Um, I'm finding the more I work with trauma, the more beauty there is in just quiet, mellow moments,
Hmm.
So maybe a couple things I know help is, so say my child is with their dad. Um, Something that helps with the transition is if dad brings the child back to me.
Hmm.
So that helps because dad's on board with wrapping things up, finishing whatever he's doing, and brings the child back to me.
Hmm.
Same thing if I'm taking my child to their dad, I am wrapping it up. Whatever we were doing is finished, and I'm taking them. So that's like a little thing, if that's possible,
So it's
can
not
help.
like another parent is interrupting what's
Exactly.
happening. Oh,
Right.
that's really interesting. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about that because we're doing a whole course on parenting
Yeah.
plans, and I think we're going to make sure to talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Just the handoff, how it's done, that whoever has the child has finished what they're doing and is taking them, to where the next parent. So that is just a practical thing that can help. um, Having as much routine as possible. So, say, okay, my child just came back from their dad's. I really encourage parents to have the same dinner every night. So, the night you come back is pizza night, the
Hmm.
night you come back is Alfredo night,
Hmm.
or
So
whatever.
like a
Um,
rituals, they know what to expect
yes,
and have
yeah,
something to look forward to.
exactly. Yes, and something just low key. Like we all love to eat, right?
Yeah.
So making a ritual around our meal, and maybe we have another activity we do together. Maybe um, it's we watch a movie or we watch a game or we watch our show. You know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
if your kid's really artistic, maybe we sit down and we just do our coloring pages together.
Mm-hmm.
Like have a couple routines and let them get settled, going
Mm-hmm.
back into their room, getting settled back into the space. I don't know that we realize as adults how hard that transition is for kids. They're going from places that have very different rules, very different environments, and they're having to totally shift gears.
Mm-hmm.
So just giving them some downtime. Don't make this be like, okay, now we got to doom, 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 go to all these things. Like give them some transition time to kind of settle back in
Yeah,
and expect, yeah.
go ahead. I was gonna say what you're talking about reminds me of someone I interviewed recently. He's a parenting coach named Mike Barsamian, and he said that your kids have to do something called code switching.
Mm,
It living in a different culture. They're living in two cultures, yours
yes.
and yours, and so they
Yes.
have to completely adjust to the
Yes.
new culture.
Very much. That's a great way to, I've never heard that phrase. I love that. Code
Yeah.
switching. Yeah, that's good. Um, yeah. So having some downtime and then as a parent, just acknowledge that they're going to probably have, they're going to be a little bit off. They might be a little bit more emotional or clingy or distant, and don't freak out. You know what I mean? Just like normalize it. Like this
Yeah.
isn't because there's the other parent is so terrible and this is so bad. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
don't make it into a big thing. This is a normal part of transitioning from one parent to the other. This is understandable and normalize it for your kid. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard to make this switch. I get it. Is there anything? What do you need? What
Mm-hmm.
do you think that would help?
Yeah.
And it
Great.
might, yeah, it might be like, gosh, when I'm over at their house, they don't ever let me have, you know, I don't know, milk, whatever. I just really want a big glass of milk. You never know what it's going to be, so you
Right.
don't have to guess. Like, just ask your kid. Um,
Yeah.
so have some routine, have some rituals, have some downtime. Don't ask a lot of questions. You can be interested without asking a lot of
Mm-hmm.
questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and what would that look like? Um, Maybe you're not on your phone. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're available.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have like that openness to you. So when they get home, there's not um like maybe I'm not super into a show or into some activity, like I'm available and I'm present
Mm-hmm.
and kind of,
Even if you're doing something else.
yeah, exactly. I could be wiping the counters in my kitchen or I could be folding laundry, but I'm giving them just that space that
Yeah.
I'm here and available. Some people call it house plant parenting.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that
House
good?
plant
Like
parenting.
I'm
Never heard that
here
one.
and I'm present and I'm open but it's not like, all
Yeah,
red.
like, oh, we have to do this. Let's do this together. Let's do this
Yes,
together. It's just like I'm doing
yeah,
my thing. If you need to talk to me, I'm here, but I'm not, I'm not sitting waiting for you to
right.
talk to me, but
I'm
I'm
low key.
available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. So as you were talking, I thought about something that also came up this week with another client and is an issue with certain people, separation anxiety, a child who is freaking out, like a little kid that's clinging and the big baby eyes
the worst.
crying and like, oh my God, like, and of course our client is
Right.
heartbroken.
It is.
How do you
Yeah,
deal or how do you help a child
yeah.
with separation anxiety?
Right.
Whether
It's
the
a
parent's
real
abusive
thing.
or not.
Right.
Like this child has it
Oh my
in
gosh.
a number of places. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, my son, when we went to second grade, he had this beautiful teacher who was like magical and amazing, but you would think she like beat him, because
Yeah.
so I did it. I've been there. Well, it's funny. So Made for This, the book that I wrote deals with separation
Oh,
anxiety. This little baby,
perfect.
yeah, the
Say the
little,
title again,
um,
Jenny. What's the title?
I'll show it to you. So here it is. It's Made for This. And so
Okay.
you see the little otter. Isn't it so cute?
Yeah.
So it's this otter that's scared to separate from mom and has a lot of fear. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just so real in all sorts of different areas, you know. Um, so again, we'll figure this out,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is gonna this will not last forever. Someday, like now my son goes to school, no problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it does work itself out. You do get there. It's more, how are you going to handle it, and what are you going to do in the
Yeah.
meantime, right?
Yeah.
Um, so one thing I will say is, as parents, a lot of times, if we know something is hard for our kids, we tend to avoid talking about it because we know it upsets them,
Uh-huh.
and that doesn't help. So
Okay.
we need to turn towards the thing that's scaring our kids
Okay.
and have a conversation. So I know you get really upset when you have to be away from me, and it's hard for you. So we're talking about it right before it happens. Um,
And you're not talking about how hard it is for you as a parent seeing them suffer.
no, that's for me to tell my girlfriends about, right?
Right, right, right.
Yes. And so, I know it's really upsetting for you. And then tell me about it. What is it like for you when you have to separate from me? What is it? What are you feeling? What do you think's going to happen? Like, just
Mm.
be curious, you
Yeah.
know? Uh, and again, a lot of times they will tell us things that we just don't realize is the dynamic going on inside. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes they don't like it, and because they don't like it, it's hard for them to tolerate it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just building kind of that distress tolerance of, okay, so you don't like it, but you're safe, but you just don't like it because it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what
Mm-hmm.
it is, or maybe there's something else going on. I don't, just we don't know, and it's
Yeah.
okay that we don't know. We just be curious, right? So I would have a conversation again, learning from them. What's their perspective? What do they need from us? What will help? And again, kids find so much comfort in rituals and routines,
Mm-hmm.
So let's make a plan. So the day that this happens, maybe the day you go to your other parent's house, let's kind of create a plan for what we're going to do to lead up to that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to take you there at this time. It's just going to be you and me, or this is who's going to be with us. Like, give them as much information as you possibly can that will help, so there's not all these questions rolling around their brain. Um, so have a routine, have a ritual. And the biggest thing is just get it over with. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of parents, they think, oh, I got to stay and comfort them. And you're not comforting them at that point. You need to go,
Yeah.
and let
Okay.
the kid settle with whoever they're with now. And trust that they're going to figure it
That's
out.
that's really helpful because they
Yeah,
usually, I mean, they do. It's
they
just we
do.
worry that they won't, and it
Exactly.
makes it
And
worse.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We've got to just, again, monitor our own internal narrative. Oh, it's got to be me. I have to be the one. I've got to be the one to help them. And you have to leave. So you need to just get that part done and let them get settled and transitioned and adjusted. The longer you stay and hang around, the longer that adjustment has got to be now.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
it's so
yeah,
helpful because we see the opposite because people think that that's how it has to be.
sure, I get it. It's so hard to
Yeah.
leave and separate or upset. And I'm not saying be rude, like kick them out the door and drive
Yeah.
off. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But,
Right.
say hello and walk them to the door and give them a hug and then go.
Yeah.
Just don't linger and don't drag it out.
Yeah. What you're saying also reminds me of what we were talking about a little while ago in terms of building resilience, like saying to your kid, you're going to be fine. I know
Yes,
you're scared, but think about every single other time you
right,
settle down without me. You're
right,
fine without me. You know you're going to see me again
right.
and you're going to figure it
You're
out.
going to figure it out. And I'm picking you
Yeah.
up at this time. I'll be there at this time. Um, and sometimes it helps kids, what do you want to do once you get there?
Mhm.
Who's going to be there? Like, help them start to like create a picture and an image, um, what are you going to be doing there today? You know, what's
Mhm. Right.
happening? And they might
Something
just
to
be
look
like,
forward to.
right, exactly. You know, and I like to give kids a transitional object that they can
Hmm.
take from place to place. So, you know, maybe you have your stuffed animal or your blanket or your special whatever that can go back and forth. I mean, that really does help a lot.
Oh, that's
Um,
good to know.
so transitional objects are good. And yeah, but just don't hang out and make it worse.
Yeah. Oh boy. We got to talk to a number of our clients about that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's so hard. And
I
to go
know.
take care of your own heart because you're upset, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Jenny, this has been so
Oh, good.
helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. So how can people find you?
Um, I have a website. So it's missjennybooks.com. So MSJENNY books.com. And then I'm on Instagram. So Miss Jenny's Neighborhood. It's funny. I always wear a sweater. It's like a counselor thing. We wear sweaters all the time. And so clients tell me like I remind them of Mr. Rogers. And so I'm just totally just owning it. So Miss Jenny's Neighborhood is my Instagram and my YouTube. So it's fun. I have videos on my YouTube. It's videos for kids to help
Mhm.
them. And it's like I use puppets and it's really
Oh,
playful. And
great.
so I'll have to do some stuff for you guys. Like you got me thinking, you know,
Yes,
just
for
with
sure.
separating and hard times like that. So I really just love helping families and trying to create conversations that are kid friendly and playful. It doesn't have to always be super serious. Kids respond so well to just playful and warm kind of approaches to things. So,
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate you coming on today, and I can't wait to share this information with our clients, and we will have another one of these.
oh, great. Thank you. And thank you for what you do. I mean, that's just wonderful work. So I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll talk
Okay.
soon. Thanks again, Jenny.
Uh huh. Bye bye.
Bye.